folks. This is going to be a continuation of a episode we did earlier this season, Science Behind the Iron. It was the 10th episode, I believe, of this season, and we dive into power and its importance. Today, we want to take the time to discuss the precursors to getting to power, where power might be the end goal, or where a lot of athletes are training at. We still need to worry about strength and hypertrophy, and we're going to talk about where they play a role. But before we get into that, I know Eric's got some news for us.
I do. So, if you've been paying attention to the news, or people have been, there's this ongoing battle of food regulation. And it is basically stating that certain states, right now it's at a state level, they want to pass a regulation law saying that that food companies have to claim what's actually in the food, and they can't claim certain products as meat substitutes. So if you have a plant-based burger, they don't want you to be able to say, hey, this is a meat substitute or this is a meat thing, which is, now reading through, there's a lot of back and forth because there's a lot of, cell cultured animal tissues or plants that's made in lab that's really not, it's labeled as a meat product, but it really isn't meat and shouldn't be. And the biggest thing behind this is that people aren't aware of what's in their food. And lawmakers are saying, hey, people need to be more in tune and more aware of what they're actually putting into their body. Once I read to that, I was like, okay, I can get on board with this, because there's so many misleading labels out there in the supermarket that say this, but then when you flip it over, it's not actually that. So not crazy news, but it's a step in the right direction, I think. I know that over in Europe, where they have a lot more regulations, they already have this in place, and it's a big thing over there, and it works. So I think we can, as a country, we can take a lot of learning from what they do over there and how they regulate certain foods. And I was telling a client today about that, and they were kind of shocked, and we were going back and forth about, should they regulate this, shouldn't. And he kind of said, well, yeah, if I go buy a car, that manufacturer should regulate the brakes. So if I'm going to go buy a burger, I should have regulations on what's in my burger. So found it interesting and wanted to share with the people out there listening that, and obviously we want to not claim, but put behind something of our teaching is always be mindful of what you're putting in and what you're buying. And even if it might sound like a meat substitute that sounds healthy, we dove in and we know that it might not be actually that great for you.
Yeah. People want to point fingers and blame something as the problem, just to promote something else, because meat's not necessarily the bad issue. Don't blame the burger what the bun's doing, or for what the bun's doing. So yeah, that's definitely helpful. What else you got?
The other one I had was actually from today. A source of the American College of Cardiology said that 5 or more hours of smartphone usage per day can increase obesity. And they were seeing up to 43% increased risk of obesity. And we're more likely to have poor lifestyle habits and an increased risk of heart disease. So if you're one of those people out there that is locked to your smartphone, you might want to double check the time you spend on Instagram, Facebook, or other social media apps, or just in general on it, that it might actually not be that great. Now, what they're kind of saying in this article, it's not that, the phone is what's bad, is there's aspects to the phone that are bad, the blue lights and the extra stimulus we get from it and the Wi-Fi, that's different. But they're saying that with this amount of time spent, it actually is more controlling a behavior and creating bad habits.
Yeah.
So with the 5 hours, you're more likely to reduce, physical activity, get outside and play, a bunch of other stuff that leads to poor life choices, other non beneficial habits that's going to stem this obesity and heart disease risk, which we're all about getting out, moving, and changing behavior patterns
I,
with what we do here at Think Fitness
I
Life.
saw a good video that was doing a good job at talking about phones and social media and the 24-hour news feed. And a lot of it was talking just about that, how we get addicted or how we get overwhelmed or mentally exhausted or emotionally drained, and how the human body wasn't designed to absorb all that information and calculate everything out like and all the time. And then it went on and talked about how there are literally scientists, there are people who are making enough money per year to feed their families, themselves, have a house, and enjoy, simple luxuries. And their job is to figure out how to get you hooked on this stuff or how to write a clickbait headlines and how to make things aesthetically pleasing and visually pleasing. So there's a lot of things kind of even on the subconscious level that you're getting addicted to just based upon human behavior. And um, yeah, it's a really crazy habit that you can slip into. I mean, there's plenty of times where I look at the clock and I can't believe how long I've been on my phone. And I do. That's why we try to promote unplugging and living in the now, and being present all the time at Think Fitness Life. I think it's really important that we aren't all over social media and we aren't posting Facebook all the time or Instagram all the time, because I do that deliberately because I don't want people to be on their phones all the time or check in every day. Um, I just think it became a luxury that got too convenient to access, and it just gets overdone. And everything, you know, the poison by the dose, right? Like everything's been in overabundance, unfortunately. So that's why we like to promote unplugging and checking out and staying present over at Think Fitness Life. So that's a good article. And I think that kind of segues us into I don't even know what to title this episode, honestly. The pre power training, or we'll just make it about strength and hypertrophy. Strength and
Yeah.
hypertrophy today, folks.
Progressing through this in way, progressing through a linear program to get you to power.
I think that's what's the
So
most important thing to just mention is that this is a lot of important stuff that we want to talk about. Mobility is important, obviously. Strength in different regards: pressing, pulling, hinging, squatting, single leg, all that stuff. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But it's also really important to know that that's not the end goal. Um, you want to be explosive. You want to be jumping. You want to be developing more power, moving as much or completing as much work in a short amount of time as you can. And that will increase your lean body mass, improve your fast twitch muscle fiber, improve your metabolic system, your hormonal system, and just overall help with longevity. But so I just want to say that this is today isn't the end goal. Today is all your homework before you get there. So
unless you're someone who wants just to be big and strong, I mean,
okay,
we've had
you're
we've
right.
had
But
well,
we
actually,
want
it
to
could be both.
promote. We want to promote what's best for longevity as well as
Correct.
performance. And I guess we should. I guess we should distinguish between the two. That if someone is just working at hypertrophy and strength goals all the time, they they'll end up like look at Ronnie Coleman and look at some of these bodybuilders who are in their 70s and 80s now. Like yeah, they look great. Like they're all jacked up, they're vascular, but their skin is sagging. A lot of them have joint problems. A lot of them have had heart bypasses because they've built such a big baggage on a frame and cardiovascular system that they're born with that their body can't handle. So I think there's just a lot of shortcomings when all you do is focus on strength and all you do is focus on hypertrophy, and all you
Hmm.
do is attribute your success and progress in the gym to aesthetics. I think there's a place
Okay.
for it, but I think that road is not what Think Fitness Life is about, and that's important to mention.
Yes, and that you can do strength and hypertrophy with what we said earlier is getting to the power training. You want to be multi multiversed of many different aspects of training. So it's yes, we're going to talk about gaining muscle size and strength, and we've already talked about power, but you can't live there 24/7, every day of the year for your whole life. We know that the research has shown that, and that's why we're going to do this today to get you to power.
You know what's kind of funny is I had this conversation with my owner. He made a good point. He's like, I don't know why they name things wrong all the time. Like we're talking about like soccer, football, and powerlifting and Olympic lifting. And it's like if anything, Olympic lifting's powerlifting. That's the most power that you're going to create, and it's true. Like a hang clean is the most power you're going to generate because you're leveraging your weight underneath the bar and you're trying to get like 300 pounds into your front rack position, and that weight's not going to move as much as you're moving underneath it. So you're generating a lot of power. Whereas a power lifter, they're it's just strength. It's a strength lifting. It's about put as much weight on there as you can and just lift it. And half the time they're not being explosive or using a lot of power anyway, and they're using more of that slow twitch muscle fiber. So I think that was a pretty interesting point.
I like it. I do. It's always flipped an interesting world where people be like, "Oh, I've heard about powerlifting." It's like, ah, different.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's start with where would you want to begin? You want to start with mobility a little bit? Just briefly talk about that.
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in.
Okay, so Gray Cook, guy who wrote the movement book along with Mike Boyle, would say um, movement is the basis of all exercise. If movement competency is poor, then we just add fitness on top of dysfunction. So moving well is totally the foundation of this whole thing. So when we talk about moving well, we want to have good ankle mobility. You want to be able to keep your foot flat, and you should be able to get your knee past that toe. You want to have a good hip hinge. You should be able to, bend down and touch your toes without straining your lower back too much. We want a good triple extension, hips, knees, and ankles working together. You should be able to sit in like Buddha stance, a yoga position where you're basically ass to grass and in a squat, in the bottom of a squat essentially, and you should be able to comfortably be in control in that position. Um, Shoulder mobility, yeah. So, how would you describe shoulder mobility? You want to be able to touch the middle of your back essentially.
Yeah, you could, and then there's gonna be some
If
people
you're
who
trying to if you're trying
who
to
won't be
shortcut
able
it,
to.
if you're trying to
Um,
shortcut it and explain to everybody right now, how would you like test that one at home? Just to see if you had good shoulder mobility or not.
Lying on the ground, can you internally rotate? So can you drop your arm down to the ground? Do you have internal rotation, and then do you have external rotation? Can you keeping the arm at 90? Can you reach the arm back, and can that arm lie flat on the ground? And then another one overhead, I'd be like, still you can be lying down because or on a table because it's a good measure. Is straight arm overhead and reach back. Do you feel tightness? Do you feel pain? Can you go all the way to the ground? Are you limited? Are you tight? Those for me are more of a screen or a test that will give me potential rather than the traditional trying to touch in between the shoulder blade, just because I felt that it translates over a little bit better. So
Yeah.
people can't cheat it when they're standing. So if you're lying on
Yeah,
the
totally.
ground, I can see
Because
what
when
they're
you
going
see
to do.
people standing, they're flaring out their ribs anyway, and everyone just focuses on trying to get their fists as close together to like for like bragging rights rather than actually having like proper mobility. So I see what you
Exactly.
mean. Like you're just laying there, your arms up at a 90 degree, and you know you're making like a U, so to speak, with both your arms, and you go from your backs of your knuckles on the ground to up and over and trying to get your palm down to the ground, keeping
Yeah.
your elbow high.
And that's a good measure because you can do it. People can do it everywhere, and they don't have to really try to force anything or know if they're doing it right or wrong. And that's a good way to start. If you don't have that mobility, maybe it's you spend a little extra time, 5 to 10 minutes more, work warming up the shoulders and doing some shoulder stretches and see if you get some improvement. And then you can
Well, we
go.
don't. I don't want to get too distracted by mobility. I just want to touch up on it because those are the
No, I know,
important ones.
but just making sure people know that if you're limited, correct it a little bit and then move on. Don't spend forever worrying about shoulder mobility because that comes and goes daily. So get to a point where you're able to perform an overhead press, a bench press, and all that stuff without any limitations or around any tightness and whatever in the shoulders.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and that is actually really good advice. But so okay, so we got shoulder mobility, we got hip mobility, we got ankle mobility. Now we want to talk about the importance of stabilizing these joints. And since we went bottom up, we'll just go top down for this one. So I love the I love two. So you do a single arm cable row, and then you drive your hand down towards your pocket. So you're standing and you're protracting your shoulder forward, but you're not letting your torso move forward. You're pulling the cable back, squeezing that shoulder blade, and engaging your lat the whole movement. And once you've completed that move, or excuse me, oh, I just described the wrong one. You pull the shoulder blade back, just the shoulder blade back. You don't bend the elbow, and then once that shoulder's in place, then you bring your hand down to your side. So it's a, I don't even know what you would call it. I just call it a shoulder retract and pocket.
I like it. Making
Um,
names up.
and then yeah, you can call it with any name, but
Yeah, whatever
that
works for
really
you.
helps put the shoulder in position and then strengthen the lat, the teres minor, teres major, everything associated with that scapula to create a strong um, joint to a stable joint. But then the other one I love is the arm bar. So you're lying down. I love to do it with a kettlebell. Um, make sure your knuckles are up and you're in a neutral grip, thumb facing up towards your forehead, and you're stacking your fist on top of your shoulder blade is on the ground, and then you have your other arm out. You kick the leg that you have your arm up towards the ceiling, that same side. Kick that leg up and over your body. Finish the rotation with your obliques, and continue punching the ceiling. So you go from your fist above your chest, lying flat on the ground, to rotated on your other hip, to your arm extended out over your shoulder so you can look up at it. Those are my two favorites to stabilize the shoulder.
I can concur with that. I'll go right along with them.
Okay, so then go for stabilizing our hips.
Hips can be a tough one because it's like a center point where a lot of muscles attach. So when a lot of people they'll think hips, okay, they'll think, all right, let's glutes and adductors and band walks. So when I think hips, I always think also obliques have to play a role with the hips because the obliques connect the top to the hips. So if the hips move one way or the ribs move one way, the hips get affected. So I'm always looking at getting obliques to work with hamstrings and glutes on, so they kind of have this check and balance system. So the hamstrings will check the internal oblique, and the external obliques won't have crazy pull, and some striates will get locked in there. But the main thing is hamstrings, interior obliques, get those going, train those. I do dead bugs, ISO anti rotation holds, anywhere where I can put that hip in a good position, lock it down, apply force from either the frontal plane or sagittal plane, and go from there.
Dang, son. That was you just made that sound easy. You made that look easy. All right. So then next thing we want to make sure is that you have good stability through your foot and can ground yourself to the floor. And that's just single leg movements, in my opinion. I always have clients do the world's greatest, so they're pretty much warming up that stability in their single leg movements anyway. But I also always in a program always have walking lunges, always have a some type of um, hinge single leg as well, and really your stability in your ankle just comes from strength from your leg. Um, More so is an issue of just people having proper ankle mobility of that subtalar joint. A lot of times people will have their foot flat, they'll go to drive their knee over their toe, and that knee will collapse in towards their big toe or towards their arch, and it's because they have a lot of tightness in that in the distal part of that subtalar joint in the ankle there, right at the front.
That's a huge one. The grounding that you mentioned is key because the feet connect us to the floor and it connects left and right half. If some people really don't have a good sense of what the floor feels like or the ground around them when they're doing an exercise, something where you focus on them feeling their foot through the floor, through their shoe or sneaker or whatever they're wearing is key. And if you don't do that and let it go, and you're like, oh, we're going to jump right into lunges, and this person is a little disconnected from the ground, the lunges aren't going to look
Yeah.
good. So very key important part of getting that into the warm up or emphasizing that point.
And a really good important point that you just made too is how that system can be off, right? Like if you have a client or if you yourself go into the gym and you're like really tired or you just woke up and you rush to the gym, it'll be a good idea to actually do a couple body weight with your feet, like without your shoes on, just your feet flat on the ground. And basically you're gonna look between your feet and just do a couple body weight squats. You're calibrating your system the same way you might like calibrate your. I can't think of anything else other than duck hunt. We used to have to calibrate the gun on the wall. But yeah,
Good way to
you're
put
like
it.
getting your system. Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Like you're trying to get everything to understand how the whole body's going to work together and where you're getting your stability from. And these, your all your proper or most of your proprioceptors end in your feet. So that's how you're going to get your system online. That's how you're going to get your, knees going out and your hamstrings engaging and your pelvic flooring working all because it's connected down to the floor. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really good important point. So then, okay, we've made sure we had mobility. We made sure we got good stability in the joints. Make me stronger, Minchie. I want to start being powerful.
I like it. Very controversial on in research and where to go first. You'll have some coaches and trainers will say, "Hey, we'll build a base first and we'll go hypertrophy and we'll build size." Others will say, "Hey, we want to build strength first. Then when you get to a hypertrophy phase, you will have better adaptations from hypertrophy because you have a base of strength."
So it's a good place to stop
Ooh.
because what did you do?
From my traditional, when I started way back in high school, it was linear progression at hypertrophy, strength, power. That's how the typical beginner linear program would go.
That's what I did too, and that's what I still stick with. So let's go with it. And my big argument is just basically rep ranges and load. Like if you're thinking about having to move 50 pounds one time, well, I want to see that you can at least perform that movement pattern 10 times at whatever, 20% of that weight just to make sure that I know all your muscles are engaging properly, all your secondary movers are working properly, and your breathing patterns right. So I think there's so much sense to working your way up to that weight. You may not keep that same rep range of whatever 12 or 10 or 8 or even 5, but I'm a firm believer in hypertrophy before strength.
And I kind of teeter back and forth. I think they're both they both have advantages, but then they both can have disadvantages. So it's I think you're going to see probably I wouldn't say equal, but similar kind of outcomes. It's just you can't for what I know what you're saying is if you're listening to this, you're not jumping into a strength program of 1 to 3 reps. Like that is a no go. You're working into a 4 to 8 rep range of base strength before you're hitting high loads. But from a lot of stuff I've seen, it's more build that base with hypertrophy because with that hypertrophy, with the higher reps, you're able to build a little bit more of the glycolytic system, aerobic system, because
Yep.
of those
Yep.
higher rep range, and you're able to deal with the buildup of lactate because of the glycolysis more. And I think that's where tend to go first is training the body to be able to handle what this is going to do to you. So strength training, people go through it. Yes, they're going to have fatigue and build up, but it's not to the point where at first it's like, what's going on? You know, I am sore. My heart rate's up. My muscles feel like they're on fire. They're swollen, all that stuff. So I'll agree. I'm
Yeah.
probably in more
Because
of a hypertrophy first, then strength phase to really
because
maximize.
it's the idea. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to cut you
To
off.
really maximize the demand you're going to put on your body.
Yeah. I mean, you make a really great point about the cardio part because then it literally gets to a point where like the days that you go super heavy, they're like the easy days because you get to take your time, you get rest, you can have a sip of water. Like in my opinion, I look forward to those days. It's the days that are fast paced or that the higher rep ranges that will still murder me because I'm destroying my body by the end of the day. But a good point to mention too is hypertrophy is about enlarging the muscle itself, making the tissue bigger, making the tissue stronger. So I still believe that you want to. I will always believe you want to do hypertrophy before strength. Just logically, it makes sense to me. But yeah, so essentially, hypertrophy, you're working in your higher rep ranges, anything from 8 to 15 ideally in my opinion, but there's obviously times that you do something body weight till failure or 20 plus reps or 25 reps or 100 reps for time, stuff like that. And the idea is that you are building the muscle in two ways. You are if you think about a water balloon, hypertrophy is going to be adding rubber to the balloon as well as filling the balloon. So we are getting the actin myosin tears, the little micro tears in the muscle that will be making it stronger. If you think about cutting your skin and then that skin grows back, it's going to be really hard to cut you in that exact spot again. You'll end up cutting yourself to the next to it, or you'll need more force to cut on that scar because it's stronger. Same way the muscle gets stronger is it's creating little tears and it's rebuilding itself, repairing itself. So in that regards, that's the extra rubber to the water balloon. And then also by constantly filling a muscle, contracting it, and um, lengthening it and recontracting it again, we are improving the amount of glycogen or um, filler that we put in that muscle. So the more and the further you get in a hypertrophy program, the more glycogen your body's going to be storing in its muscle, just sort of innately, and how much sugar the muscle is receiving, and how filled it is. So that would be the water balloon. So that's essentially hypertrophy. And um, yeah, run us through. Go ahead and talk us through a little bit about kind of a week at a glance hypertrophy program.
So what you mentioned between you said 8 and 15, which is your standard rep range that you'll see in a lot of magazine, bodybuilding.com, any kind of bodybuilder you talk to, they will tell you this. For me, it is you'll see a lot of times see 3 sets of 12 across the board, 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 12. A big thing with before we get into kind of a week looks like of what hypertrophy is total rep volume. So if you're doing 3 sets of 12, you're obviously hitting 36 reps of that exercise. Now there's research out there that have shown that about 36 to 50 reps per muscle group is optimum rep range for hypertrophy. So if you're a person in the 3x12 camp, add a 4x12 or a 5x12, and you'll get more because you're hitting higher total stimulus. So with all that being said, people will say, oh, well, 6 reps can't be hypertrophy. You can make 6 reps hypertrophy if you're doing 8 sets of 6. So you're hitting into that rep range. So I think sometimes hypertrophy in this 8x12 gets this rep of, oh, that's only hypertrophy. Where if you're hitting multiple sets of certain number of reps, the more what we call muscle gains you're gonna get. So 4 less sets, you're gonna get about 5% muscle gain. 5 to 9 sets, 7%. 10 plus sets per muscle group, you're going to get about 10%, just to get people a frame of if they want to program, what they're looking for. So let's take the legs. If you want to increase size of the legs, you're doing 4 sets of 12 on a back squat. Perfect. There's 40.
You could also start with
You
three
could.
sets. If you're beginning in the gym and you're just starting off, or you're just even if you're just re establishing a new program, like, you could get away with
Oh yeah,
three.
but there's the point where at 3, like you're in the cusp end or beginning of hypertrophy. So if it's a I would say if you really want to kind of tap into it, that fourth set is going to be key. It's so much 3 sets does work, but 4 sets plus you get a better stimulus from it. So I don't think three
Totally,
sets is
totally.
bad. I think you can hit 3 sets of
But
15.
I don't think everybody
No,
can handle four
no, four
sets,
sets
because
of 12 is a
when I
lot.
first get
Like
my
even 3 sets
yeah,
of
yeah,
15,
for sure.
you're hitting that 45 reps. You're right there. That's why 3 sets of 15 is a great rep range. So kind of my issue with the 3x10, 3x12 is we get too comfortable with it, or people get too stuck in, oh, they're not adding more weight, or they're not going up, or they're not progressing, adding reps or adding sets. That's the one where you're going to get hypertrophy. But if you're beginning, 3x12 is a good way to start for week 1 and 2. Then bump it up week 3, 4 sets. Remember, it's not exercise, it's total sets per muscle group. So if you're doing squats and then you're doing a walking lunge afterwards, you do 4 sets of squats, you do 4 sets of walking lunges, you now have 8 sets. You're hitting that upper range of workout for that muscle group for sets. Besides that, let's go into what a week would look like. There's so many different ways you can split it up. The best way that I like to do for a hypertrophy program is pick antagonist muscles. So if you want to do an upper body day, you can do chest press with some sort of row. You know, I'm going to say go up and go 4x12 on both, so you're hitting that rep range, and then you can move on to another pairing. It could be a squat and a hamstring curl. If you wanted to set it up where you could go squat to a bench press, 4x12 on each. You're getting that volume in, move on to the next pairing. That's kind of how I
That's
program
probably
it.
the that's probably the best way to do it, because you're like, when you think about the muscle, you're basically establishing one bookend and then putting down another bookend, and you're just pumping out that muscle and making it grow. Um, I would say that if you're like a beginner, you can totally get away, and I think there's a lot of value with breaking it up by movement pattern, and there's learning in repetition and focusing on one thing at a time. So I think like beginner, I would totally be okay with in 5 days having a push day in the beginning, having a pull day second, doing all of your lower pushing and pulling on the third day, having that fourth day be a push pull again, and then having that last day being just a
Yeah.
total body.
And that's a good way to set it up. And if your goal is pure muscle gain, it is going to be completely a stimulus thing. You want to get to failure on a lot of sets. So those last
Mm,
3 to 5 reps
yes.
are very much stimulating reps. Those are the reps that really count at the end because you're pushing your body past this point of where it wants to be, and it's basically saying, hey, I have to remodel if you want to do this again. If you want to lift 100 pounds 12 times again next week, I have to remodel and do something. So then the next week comes, 12 reps gets easy, you say, okay, I'm going to add 5 pounds, so you're at 105, and you do that, and you start. That's where the progression of goes, and you're going to see increase in muscle size because of the demands you place on your body. So that's a big thing for, if you looking to put on some serious mass and size, is you always got to be progressing either sets or reps. And it can be a walking up a couple weeks. It could be week 1 and 2, you're at a certain number of sets, and then you add sets going forward. And then if you add sets afterwards, you can stop adding sets and start adding more reps.
And an important part about what you're saying about failure is when we're saying these rep ranges, that doesn't mean you grab a weight, you go to that number, done. That means the number matches the weight. Your weight should be such that that last rep, 2 reps, 3 reps, you're cheating a little bit in your form. You might have perfect form the first 3 reps, form starting to get harder to maintain, and then those last 2 to 3 reps, you're cheating a little bit. That's how you know it's a good heavy weight and good enough to stimulate your body, your central nervous system, your endocrine system
It's
to
got,
grow and to make your muscles stronger
got to
and
be
bigger.
metabolically taxing enough to create enough stress for your body. That's where I think I like to go hypertrophy first, because you're creating so much stress and the body has to adapt really quick, and you're creating the stress for what is coming next when you go really, really heavy. The other,
It's that good
oh yeah, it's
inflammation.
great.
Everyone talks about anti-inflammatory
That,
drugs, or this is good for
that's what you want.
anti-inflammation, or this is good for inflammation. This is
Yeah.
good
And if you
inflammation.
are, kind of side note, if you are trying to gain muscle mass and you feel that soreness, Matt just mentioned anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen. Those are a no-go because those will inhibit that process of remodeling muscle tissue. So if you're looking for size, get out of the medicine
And
closet. Please do
please,
not eat those. Do not consume those. Endure the soreness.
they're bad for your gut lining also, but please also on top of what Menchie's saying, how many times do you see this? And I don't. I mean, I laugh a little bit about it, but I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm not here to judge anyone or make fun of anybody. But please don't be one of those persons that um, works out and then goes and foam rolls every muscle that you just worked out. I understand if you have tightness somewhere. I understand if you're feeling pain somewhere and you feel knotted up somewhere. That's totally different. But don't mindlessly foam roll your body after you just worked out, because you're getting rid of that blood. You're flushing out all the inflammation, and your body needs to actually do that on its own. It's kind of like you want your kid to learn something, and you just come and take care of all of it for them so they don't actually get the experience of doing it themselves. And that's what you're trying to do, is get your body to have to do all that stuff on its own. And one, you'll get more results out of your hypertrophy program, and two, you'll get your body better at its own processes that it should be
Yeah.
good at
And the
already.
other big thing with that is hypertrophy is you have to be eating enough and eating of the right stuff. So hypertrophy program is very demanding on the body. Get enough protein in to rebuild those muscles. You know, you have to keep continuing to building. But I think it's really key because some people be on hypertrophy programs and they'll say, "Hey, I'm not really gaining size, or I'm not seeing progress, or I'm so super sore." Well, are we consuming enough protein? A, and then for workouts like this, very taxing, glycogen stores are going to be depleted. Are you getting good quality carbohydrates in with that? So that's always a big
Yeah.
thing. And the other,
Moving into
I want to
nutrition,
don't want to
so I
tip
don't
too
know.
far, but it's one of those things where it goes hand in hand with hypertrophy. It's like you want to put this work
No,
in,
it does. It does.
you got to.
This is everything hypertrophy from the nutrition to the workout. And another important part that you're talking about is also kind of like your window of opportunity. You should have probably a banana or a little bit of something pre-workout, right? Like I hate having to say that term now because it's so ugly. Pre workout means sugar. Pre
Yeah.
workout means quick energy. It doesn't mean all this other crap that they sell in pre workouts and all this other crap that they sell in intra workout. They pump these BCAAs. No, what you need is probably a little bit of creatine monohydrate, a little bit of beta alanine, citrulline malate, and some quick energy, some sugars, and because you're going to use it in a hypertrophy workout for 40 minutes, you're going to use all that stuff. I wouldn't be too worried about once on the lips, forever on the hips. But the other important part is after the workout. It's like a 2 hour window of opportunity where if you think about your body as a sponge, you just squeezed out all of its glycogen in every muscle, and you've broken some of the parts of the sponge, and now it's got to repair it. Now it's got to fill itself back up. You want to do that with the best quality that you can and the adequate amount. So if you're thinking about how you throw something at a wall and only a certain percentage of it sticks, you want to be in kind of an overabundance in that meal because you're probably only going to get you know 70 to 80% absorption, and that's even a high estimate, right? Like protein shakes, for example, that's how fast it is going through your system. You only get about 20 to 30% absorption of that protein. So this is just a high estimate. So if your meals or your macros are set up in a certain way, you need to think about your post-workout meal in a hypertrophy program and even a strength program, honestly. And you want to be your bigger meal should be post workout, and then that window of opportunity is from that last exercise between that 30 minutes after that point to 2 hours after that point is kind of your window of opportunity, 30 to an hour.
So critical. And
So
that's the basis of what you're going to be doing for day in and day out. And for a hypertrophy program, this is not an everyday sort of grind. I mean, it can be. I usually recommend 4 days a week. One day, get some moderate low intensity. I really don't. I'm going to say energy system development work. So on that side, you don't want to. If you're trying to also, build muscle mass for a strength phase, you don't want to be doing massive amounts of cardiovascular work that are going to kind of try to compete with your hypertrophy gains or your hypertrophy goals. So, we see this often that people are like, oh, I just did this hypertrophy workout, but now I'm going 30, 40 minutes on a Stairmaster. You don't want to flip those hormones. Right now, we're talking about gaining hypertrophy and tension on the body, increasing fibers, collagen, ligaments, tendon strength, all to accept more load to get you to a strength and power phase. You don't need to be trying to competing that stuff with endless amounts of cardiovascular. And if it doesn't fit your goals, your sport, or where you want to be, then kind of you can push that to the side and wait for another phase to get that in. Now, with a hypertrophy program, if you're doing timed intervals, so 45 to about 75 seconds rest in between sets, you're going to get that cardiovascular or energy system development work. So I'm not really worried about it. So if you're out there trying to put on size, and be healthy, you can kind of get the best of both worlds with that and don't have to kind of stress the system with excess cardio, which I was a bad bad example in the past, which I'd be like, oh, I got to try to do all this, and my body was competing for all these things, and I ended up gaining where I could have gained. So now that you learn and you try these programs out, it kind of goes a long way. So I want to help people before they even get stuck in that path. The other thing I wanted to just dive in about hypertrophy really quick about the I know I said the beginning where some people would go strength first and then hypertrophy, or hypertrophy then strength, or it doesn't matter the rep range. Just kind of talking about fiber types in for people out there who might not know or might be new to this podcast. We have multiple different fiber types in our body. So we have type 1 fiber types, so we'll keep it very simple, which are your aerobic, more oxidative fibers. And you have your type 2, which are your fast twitch, your more glycolytic, your more explosive fibers. When we train higher rep ranges and slower speeds or whatever, we're recruiting more type 1 fibers, which is fine. And we can grow those and increase capacity with those. Fine. The biggest thing I tell people is how can we tap into those type 2 fibers, which are these more powerful glycolytic, and they have 50% greater capacity for growth. So on a hypertrophy program, that's where we can really tap into that. So we're talking how quick can we recruit these motor units is heavier weights and faster movement. So with a hypertrophy program, you can go heavier weights with lower reps, just add more sets. So if you want to do 5 reps, and Matt, I'm sure you've done a 5x5 before, which is 25
Yeah,
reps.
back in
If you
my
go heavy
day.
enough weight, that 25 reps is a good stimulus for growth. If you want to go more, you can go 6 to 8 reps or 6 to 8 sets of 5 reps with heavy weight. That will tap into the type 2 fiber types, and you're hitting that rep range of 36 to 50. You're going to see some hypertrophic effects. So that's another way I always like to kind of program hypertrophy. If your day one is, hey, we're doing 4 sets of 12, maybe day two with a rest day in between, or day two is, hey, we're going to do 10 sets of 6 and pick 4 exercises and just get really strong, but still get the volume in and not just be like burning out at high reps. I don't know if you ever tried that at all. I found for me, it works really well.
I don't think I've tried that specifically.
Just,
Um, I was gonna just mention the.
I
Oh,
just want to
sorry. Go
give
ahead.
people a difference. I think most magazines I've read say to gain muscle, it's 8 to 12. And there's no,
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, yeah, it
right,
doesn't
right.
need to
There's
be
there's no
right.
magic pill with this. There's no like this is the end all be all. I just want to give people options of where they can go, at how they can use different rep ranges. If you're using lower reps, it just has to be more sets. If you're using a higher rep range and you want to go into complete failure, and messed around with some of this, and this has been around for a while, is ultra like rest pause. So if you want to do 15 reps, take 10 to 15 seconds, rest it, and then try to get as many more reps possible. And you're starting to tap into 25, close to 30 reps total for one set. That's a lot of stress on the body, and that has been shown to work. So there's so many different things that you can do out there for hypertrophy. You can't just be limited to 8 to 12.
Like,
Sometimes I'll have people, hey, we're gonna do,
like,
especially for I don't know if a lot of women listen to this, but for glute training, I always tell them 8 to 12, you're gonna get good at it really quick. How about like 3 sets of 25? I mean, we're hitting 75 reps total. That's a lot of volume, but your body's gonna have to grow if it's gonna want to do that again.
yeah, I like 4, 8, 12,
Ooh,
16, and you pyramid the weights. So you start heavy and go light, or you do the opposite: go light and go start light and go heavy, and you're getting a lot of reps in, a lot of volume in. But another one I like too that is strength, but also maintains hypertrophy is what is it, a 5-3-2? So you pick two exercises, kind of like what you were talking about before, like an agonist, antagonist. So you do like maybe a barbell bent over row and an incline press, and you'd pick weights that you could probably only get 5 reps of. So you're really the variable you're manipulating is almost the rest period because you're still getting 10 reps in every round because you do 3 rounds, and each round you go 5 reps of your bent over row, 5 reps of your incline press, then 3 reps of your incline press, 3 reps of your bent over row, 3 reps of the incline press, 2 and 2. So you're still getting 10 reps in at a heavier weight, and that's round one. Then ideally you're adding 5 pounds on each side, 2.5 pounds on each side, whatever, progressive tension, and going around again. So you're still getting 30 reps in each set, but you end up having to use a little bit more strength because it's heavier. And I like that variation a lot. And like I said, you're kind of just manipulating the rest because what gets really tired is just you get really tired just going back and forth. But by the end, you're pumped up, everything's swollen, and you're definitely getting hypertrophy, but also working strength. So like you said, it's not necessarily that rep count. It's not necessarily everything has to be 8 reps or 10 reps or 12 reps. Because what's going to happen is people are going to get monotonous in that, and ideally, everything's intentional. Every rep is you visualizing that muscle engaged and stretched position, and then you're contracting it. You're visualizing it contracting and getting a quick or brief pause for a squeeze in. So every motion should be deliberate, and I do fear that when people get into hypertrophy programs, a lot of people just kind of go through the motions, and they're not really engaged the way
Gotcha.
that the body should be. Thus, their system's not going to be understanding what's going on or make any adaptations from it. Another important one too is strip sets. That's definitely more than 10 reps. Going 10 reps and then dropping weight about 50% and go another 10 reps, and then maybe dropping weight again and go until failure. That's you're probably doing 100 reps
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
and that's the same thing. We're getting into those stimulating reps where it's you're pushing complete fatigue. That's what you kind of want to do. Yes, we know that high rep or high volume squats are going to be brutal, but that's what it's going to take to put on some size and get strong in that hypertrophy range and lead you to the next phase of training. Now, obviously, with our most of our clients, we're always progressing them in some sort of, whether it's linear, undulating, or conjugate or concurrent programming or periodization. It's always some aspect put in, and I always like to keep that aspect very close and but play around with it, like you said. So not do straight 8x12s or 4x10s or whatever, but adding different stuff in so you get total volume just changes the stimulus, especially for people who've been training a while. Now, your beginners are going to pick up pretty quick, but your intermediate and especially your advanced lifters out there, that's when you got to play around with these rep schemes and really get funky with it and and have fun with it. I think that's a joy of it when you're standing in a squat rack and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to do 100 reps today, and you're getting close to 100 reps, you're at rep 95 and you're just doing like sets of 3 or 4 and you're kind of like really, it's an experience that I think a lot of people should get to. Yeah.
Haven't
It
forced
is
themselves to
a
do. Yeah.
highly rewarding sensation when you're done, but it's a gruesome process in the meantime when you're doing it.
The gym is not a place to be afraid to fail. I think people definitely are afraid to fail or afraid to push themselves to that limit. And yeah, you do gotta kind of have to check your ego at the door a little bit because it is miserable. If you ever want to, I mean, if you've gotten to the point where even 5 pounds is heavy, then that's a good sign. Don't be embarrassed by how light of a weight you'd have to pick up or use if you're doing a strip set or even just finishing body weight. Leave yourself broken and beaten on the ground. Last thing I want to mention, we didn't mention that is totally a foundation to my training style was FST7 training. So it's fascia stretch training, and it's a really interesting concept, and I'm really happy it was developed. But it doesn't have to be so strict to how you would read about it. The way we did it, the way we adapted from it was just basically stretching in between every single thing we did. So if we're doing a bicep curl, I'll use for example, we would make sure that we would do a set of 10 and then we would be stretching. So you would be doing 10 reps and then stretch your arm for 30 seconds on each side and then go back to another 10. And the purpose of this is you're actually, so we talked about um, the analogy of the water balloon. And another important part comes when you have this fascia. Our fascia is what wraps around all these water balloons of our muscle, connecting them together. And by doing FST7 training, by stretching in between all the time, you're actually stretching the fascia as well. So you're basically making a bigger home for the muscle. So it'll improve the way that you um, develop muscle. It'll also improve your insertion points of the muscle for any bodybuilders out there, and it'll also improve the way that you're going to prevent yourself from building up any inflammation around your joints, any tennis elbow or
Yeah, so
golfer's elbow, which is pretty cool.
this is something you're getting into or want
And
to
yeah,
hit a
that's probably the
hypertrophy
last thing I'd
phase,
want to say
have
about
fun in the
hypertrophy
gym and
training.
go attack some barbells and dumbbells and put some reps into them, put some mileages in, eat good, have fun, and watch yourself grow. And the possibilities are endless once you start.
That's it, folks. And looks like this episode was just hypertrophy. No, but that's good.
Got a little
That's
carried
good.
away with
Seriously.
hypertrophy.
I mean, I was watching the clock, and then I was like, oh shit, all right, I gotta make another point. And I was like, shit, I didn't even say anything about FST7. And then I saw your text on the phone directing me to the other one. And I was like, all right, that's a little bit of weight lifted off my chest. Pun intended. But yeah, because I was like, shit, there's so much to cover in strength. Um,
Yeah. And I mean, we probably scratched. Not we got into hypertrophy, but there's like I said, there's so many rep schemes and
Yeah, but we
things
don't
we
need to
could have
list them
done.
all. I think the
No,
point is in all of it, it's about variation. And I think we gave a lot of people a lot of tools to try out different things. And yeah,
and
I think
that's what
I
it's
think
about. Get
I think we'll
more tools.
always be overwhelmed with the fact that there's going to be so much more we could bring up.
It's good to be overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I feel like every episode I'm like, oh, I should have talked about this more. But that's why I'm happy we do this kind of loosely scripted, but kind of off the cuff, because then we know what we want to talk about in an hour and 45 minutes to an hour. And if we can't delineate between what's priority and what's really not that important in 45 to an hour, then we got bigger
Right.
issues.
When
Um,
you mentioned that 5-3-2, do you remember where or what it's called? I remember seeing it somewhere. Uh,
ooh.
I didn't know if you remembered it or
I'll ask my
because I know it's a very good approach to use. And I programmed it here and there, and I can't remember where exactly I read the complete
I
art.
think it was Jim Stepani.
Was it? Okay.
I think it was Jim Stepani.
All good stuff. And it's crazy. There's like the vast majority of stuff out there online. I tell people there's so many different avenues for finding this information. Obviously, one of the biggest ones I use is I'm always reading on like T Nation and stuff for different strength protocols or different stuff. So for people listening, if that's an avenue you want to go check out, obviously it is a hardcore website for some serious science geeks and weightlifters and nutrition people. If that's not your thing, you can just stick to what we
And I
advise.
think that is why. First of all, I think sometimes I can read minds because then I'm always like having a reply because I kind of can see where someone's going to say something. So it's just funny because I don't mean to interrupt you. I just am like, oh, my point about what you're about to say. I'm like jumping the gun, and I just need to let you finish what you have to say. But it's why I want to have an episode of us listing all the people that we follow and all the people we learn from and all the people that we have learned from, because it's going to help people understand that, yeah, this is super overwhelming and you're more than welcome to try it on your own. And we honestly would encourage that, because that's what Think Fitness Life is about: thinking about things, asking questions, and find your solutions. And the only way to do that is experimenting, and the gym is like your lab. But I think it's important for people to understand where we develop some of this stuff, and it's kind of going to be hopefully humbling to people when they say, okay, this doesn't have to be so overwhelming. Like, I can go look at this guy for nutrition, or I can go look at this guy for strength, or I can go look at this guy for Olympic lifting, or I can look at this guy for his way he periodizes some of his programs. So I wanted to, that's why I really want that episode of us listing all the people off. Like, I didn't know the 532 program was Jim Stepani until I just confirmed it and looked it up. But I've read a lot of his stuff, and that's probably the one thing I liked about him, right? Or the one thing that I kept from him. And then there's other things like I love Elliot Holst because I love how he I love how he puts things in terminology for people so they can visualize it. And I love his cueing techniques, and I love Dr. Rhonda Patrick because she talks about the importance of sauna benefits and how to use that and the modalities for a sauna. And I love Walter Longo because he talks about the different cycles of the body and how you create different feedback loops. So I think it's important to have an episode about this, and it's kind of like the background of our experiences and the field in general.
Yeah, and that's what's great about it. And there's so many avenues we can go with that.
Yeah,
So
that's why
I
literally
mean, that's going to
when
be
you ask me the format for that, I think the format will be best would be we just go back and forth, rattling off a name and talking about what we learned from them, what their best maybe use is, and then the other person can be like, oh yeah, I know that name. This is why I like them, and then they'll say a name and say why they like the name they just said, and then the other person will just keep ping ponging back and forth.
that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one.
Cool, man.
What else? Did we miss anything else on hypertrophy or anything we need to update the people on?
Um, we covered
I think we
we
covered a lot.
covered eating. We covered the workout itself in the sets and reps and rest. We covered load, and we covered week at a glance.
Ooh, maybe kind of go back to uh, eating. Is I've had some clients and the traditional, I would call it hard gainers, or clients that they want to gain size, but it's very tough for them. So if you're one of those people, and I'm one of those people that have a tough time, I can eat a lot of stuff and do all this work and seeing like what's going on. Sometimes that might just be messing around and having some tweaks. Are you going to add, protein, extra protein at night or extra protein in the morning? Are you going to add some more, calories to your day? So I actually stole a thing from you. I think it was last year you sent me a picture of what you ate, and you're like, I just drain it in olive oil. So now, I have this salad. Basically, it's just onions and lettuce and some carrots or whatever, and I mix my own dressing with olive oil and just drop it down, eat it. That's a way for me to get extra calories on. And actually, I've seen by adding that a couple times a day, a couple times a week, and then maybe every day, that I'm starting to really see some pounds being put on the scale, and my hypertrophy program is really increasing.
That's what's up.
So small stuff like that can go a long way, that I tell my clients.
Yeah, olive oil is crazy how many calories you get per tablespoon, and um, there's a lot of important fats that you're not getting, um, and a lot of compounds that are going to help prevent a buildup of inflammation and buildup of um, kind of like the what's they called the char, and the char is every time. So sugar, protein, and heat creates these charred or these like age spots, and um, the more that you are just consuming animal protein and worried about your hypertrophy gains, the more you're going to be consuming and the more you're going to create these chars, and olive oil actually has compounds in it to help combat all those that buildup. So there's just so many benefits from olive oil, and I'm glad to hear that that was an easy way for you to add calories in. I find that too, though.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'll forget it.
so I thank
I'll
you.
like I'll have like vegetable and protein, and then like 2 hours later I'm hungry, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to put the olive oil on. It's funny.
Oh, and that I've been doing either olive oil, or I grabbed some
Oh,
avocado
I was just gonna
oil,
say,
and
so I made the mistake last night, and what I did was I just took 3 avocados, smashed them up. I have some taro root in the fridge that I peeled, sliced, and threw in the oven. And then I literally had like homemade chips and guac, and that was enough fat. But that was a lot of fat that I was full.
yeah, and I think that's a big thing for especially me, is I could eat like protein, and let's say protein, some sweet potatoes and vegetables, or proteins and vegetables, and I'm still hungry afterwards. It's really when I get the good healthy fats in that I really feel
Totally.
full.
And they say
I'm like, okay,
one
that was
gram of
a
fat
good
has
meal.
9 calories.
And it's good. You need it to break down the vitamins.
Don't
It
don't blame the
obviously,
avocado for what the bread's doing.
oh, yeah. Like if you're on this, crazy hypertrophy program, and like I said, I've read tons of magazines. I have magazines from 2009 sitting here, Muscle and Fitness still, and it's amazing what they've said. Like, okay, you can eat bread and eat this, and you'll gain size. Which I'm not going to disagree with
No,
you.
you
You will
will. You
gain
will.
size. If you want to be a person that puts straight mass on, eat peanut butter sandwiches 2 a day and you'll gain size. The only thing I don't like or really condone about that is, you want to stay healthy when you gain size. And if most people want to gain size, they want to gain muscle mass, not fat. You can gain it by still eating a very, I don't even like the word clean, but a very healthy diet, and not adding in processed food. That's the route I want a lot of people to go to, because you can sit there and scarf down bags of popcorn and chips and eat ice cream. Yeah, you'll gain 20 pounds and lift on top of it.
It's
You'll get
not
strong.
it's
You'll
not
still be all that.
sustainable. And
Right.
I feel
Not
like I
healthy.
destroyed my good gut bacteria, destroyed my gut lining, and then a catalyst was just really strict not eating for a show, and I developed ulcerative colitis. And I totally think that it had to do. It was obviously it's a perfect storm of a lot of bullshit, but I think
Mhm.
a major factor was the my shitty habits prior to. Um, because yeah,
And,
that's exactly what I did. I overdid the sweets. I overdid the
but
chips.
that's, yeah. And no, when I we first met, you were very much into that bodybuilding lifestyle. Is that kind of a standard in that sort of field? Is, whatever to do, you kind of eat to get big, and then when it's time to cut down. Because
Yeah,
I still see it with some people, especially at work, and other trainers who have that sort of mentality. It's like, oh, I'm just gaining size. I can eat whatever, and yeah, they look good on stage, or they eventually when they cut down, but is that really healthy at
I
the
think
end
a
of the
lot of
day?
it is justified by what people are doing in the gym. They just feel like because they're so active that they can eat whatever they want, and it might be so. You might get away with eating whatever you want, but it's not going to be
Right.
sustainable, and it's not going to be. Um, it might help you look good now, but it's not going to be helping you look good in the future. And I think that's one thing that's really important. I think fitness life is that we're about longevity as well. The goals of today can't forego the goals of tomorrow. And I
100%.
think it's a waste of time.
That's it.
And I think people who want to gain size before they worry about cleaning up their nutrition are a little bit insecure and looking for a quick fix, looking for that look good, feel good. And I'm not going to talk negatively on it. I did the same thing. I think it's a great way for people to start and get hooked on the gym because when you can actually see physical um, rewards for your work, it's the most rewarding thing. When you put in the effort and you get to see the direct results and you directly benefit from your work, there's nothing else like it. And I love when I get a new client or someone who's been out of the gym for a long period of time and they get that little bug, they get the little itch, and it's fun to watch. And I think but yeah, to answer your question, to go back to answer your question, yeah, I think it's really common for people to just eat what they want, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah,
That's
you can't
how it
outwork a bad
goes.
diet.
Right. Uh, but like you said, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do, and preach what we do all the time, because even though we've been down different paths, we can each bring that to the table and say, okay, this is what we did in the past. It didn't work. This is where it led us. This is not healthy. It's not sustainable. You shouldn't be doing this, even though you might see it on social media that this person's doing this. That's great, but that might not be for you. That might be the right fit for you. So I always tell people, or always think health down the road. Number one, is this going to be something that's going to be a behavior change that's going to help me in a month, in a year, in 10 years, or is this something that's going to be all of a sudden detrimental, could be even tomorrow or down the road if I keep doing something like that? What could be the issues with that? And I think as society now, and we've talked about this many times, we're looking at more the sort of like the what's right in front of us instead of looking at, okay, what could the potential be if we hold off and down the road, rather than the instant gratification of, if we do this today, I should look like that tomorrow. It's like, no, we're doing this for life, to be healthy, to feel good, to enjoy family, to enjoy every aspect of living and not be limited to certain
If you
things.
trust the process, then the aesthetics will come.
And I think that's all I got for
You're on
tonight.
a roll in this one. I loved it. Yeah, that's it, folks.